Welcome to a football show, Monday edition. Game number 2 of the Tennessee Titans preseason is in the books. He is Zach. I am Braden. We, of course, are brought to you by the Kingston Group and Weiss Liquors. We'll tell you more about those great partners and sponsorships coming up a little bit later on in the show. 13-3 victory, if that matters, for the Tennessee Titans.
That's a Mike Vrabel fever dream.
Yeah, well, the first quarter and a half were really boring, but we learned a lot, and we're going to talk a lot about Malik Willis today on the show, of course. What did he learn? Has he caught up with Logan Woodside? Does Zach think he's closing in on that number 2 quarterback yet? I'm going to get you to admit it at some point that he's the number 2 quarterback. Maybe not yet. We're going to talk about all of the offensive rookies in particular. They were the pass catchers, the running backs. They were excellent, and we're going to talk about them. Dillon Radunz, NPF. Maybe not or a different type of Mike Vrabel fever dream, perhaps, watching Dillon Radunz pass block. We'll get to that in a little bit.
That's a fever nightmare.
The defense was absolutely Mike Vrabel. There's no question about that. The defensive front, we'll get to that. The secondary, the practice with
secondary
Arizona
just gets me all excited. I mean, like, if you're not watching on video, you would have seen me do like body tremors. I'm just like shaking because it's just so exciting. It's like the truffle shuffle.
The truffle shuffle. There you have it. We'll look ahead to what we expect out of the Arizona Cardinals Titans joint practice this week as well, and maybe some Broadway sports media news as well, because obviously big announcements on Monday. I will admit, however, that we are recording this on Sunday following the Mike Vrabel press conference and the win. We got some work stuff we had to deal with, so we'll be back live on Thursday. So we apologize to all you great commenters, Stoney and Donnie and Kevin and all you great guys that comment all the time. We apologize about that. But again, we'll be back on Thursday live. But, most of this show, Zach, needs to be dedicated to what we saw on Saturday night at Nissan Stadium. So we're going to do that. What should the good folks do with all of their notifications and all the social platforms?
They need to go to 440 Sports YouTube page first and foremost. That is let's start trying to get that brand, or I guess that channel, built up, because that should be your go-to. Because not only is this show on there, but you have The Fringe Element, which is an SEC show.
That's true.
Old Standard, which is a hockey show. You have Club and Country, which is a soccer show. You have Lamestream Media. All these video clips and videos and full podcasts and all this stuff are at 440 Sports. So that's where you need to go for over there. Then you need to go to Broadway Sports YouTube page, because there's going to be all kinds of crazy things happening that were announced earlier today on Monday at some point. I have no clue when they're announcing it at the time of this recording, so I don't want to overstep just in case it's like a 4 p.m. and here we are at 1 p.m. Okay, so I am.
How about this? A lot of really cool stuff. Broadway Sports Media announced so much cool stuff today. It was awesome. I can't even tell you exactly what it was. It was so great.
Or Broadway Sports Media is at 4 o'clock later today. It's about to tell you all this cool stuff that's coming down the pipeline. So now we're covered both ways. But Broadway Sports Media is going to have a bunch of stuff coming your way. I know that there is a new video/podcast show with a special talent that everybody loves, and little known talent. If you
Huxley?
that will get you a. He's a very underplayed on air talent, so that will get
Huxley
you.
Finally got his own show.
No Huxley. No Huxley.
I'm waiting for the Huxley podcast.
He understands English. He cannot speak English yet. So we're there.
The podcast, PAWDCAST.
I like it.
The podcast. There you go, from Huxley.
But I do want to showcase something for the video listeners.
Okay. All right.
I went down to see my dad this weekend, my parents. And this is a Chuck Cecil. Given the bird autograph signing that Dad is pawning off on me, because he knows he's clearing out his garage, and this is probably in his garage somewhere, and he thinks I want it. And he said, you can put that behind in your podcast studio, and the people will love that and stuff. It's probably not go back there.
What I love is that I'm learning to get glimpses of like who you are and how you became the person that you became. The fact that your father has an autographed photo of a coach giving the bird tells me all I need to know about where you came from.
Yeah, it's for some charity donation that Dad did. It says, Richard, Baptist Babies, appreciate your donation. I just think it's weird that he just says Baptist Babies. Like, why not Methodist Babies? You're number one.
I'm more of a Lutheran guy myself,
You're number one, Chuck Cecil.
No, yeah, that's one way of saying number one.
Like over there or something.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So again, real quickly, Weiss Liquors, Kingston Group. Weiss Liquors, Uber Eats, type in Weiss Liquors. They'll deliver booze right to your house as quickly as 20 minutes. I'm not sure what else you need. I was in there. I stocked up for the weekend on Friday. Went in. I said $4.40 at the counter. Got my 10% off a purchase. So I got a couple of bottles for the wife. Got a couple of bottles for myself. Got my 10% off. So again, Weiss Liquors, almost 100 years of locally owned independent business here in Nashville. Go check them out there on Gallatin, right by the Titans Stadium.
And a pretty good beer selection. If you like, I got they're one of the few places. Weiss Liquors is one of the few places that has the Einstock lager, not the winter lager, just the regular lager. Everybody else has the toasted amber chestnuts on an open fire kind of deal that I hate.
The Christmas
this is
lager.
Just this is just the lager. So go to Weiss Liquors and stock up on Einstock.
They also have and this is one of my new favorite beers that my in-laws have turned me on to. It's called Adios Pantalones, which obviously means goodbye pants. It's very good summer beer. They're one of the few stores that carries it. They got 2 different flavors, and again, right there by the Titan Stadium. So stock up before the game or stock up after, or if you're in this case celebrating a victory. And of course, the Kingston Group, BuildKG.com, Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. Make sure you check out the Kingston Group. Okay, so 13-3. Let's talk Malik Willis, Zach, to get started here. And the big question I have is sort of, did we see progress in what he has been clearly working on, what the coaching staff wants him to work on from game 1 in Baltimore? You got an extra day, a couple days to get to the second game against Tampa on Saturday. He was, 7 of 17. He ran the ball a lot of times, a lot of scrambles, a couple of sacks. I mean, not exactly perfect, but did you see progress that you wanted to see?
Yes and no. It's kind of weird. Okay, so the scripted drive, I thought, showed everything you wanted to see, where they basically laid everything out for him. Here are the plays that we're going to run. And it was obviously clearly scripted in that first drive and a half. After the first drive and a half, for about 2 or 3 or 4 drives, you kind of saw old Malik Willis, new Malik Willis. That you kind of saw everything. But overall, I thought that if you put that Malik Willis into the game 1 against the Ravens, I think he would have scored maybe a passing touchdown, then 2, maybe 2. I think he just looked a little bit better. Do I think he looked a lot better? No. But do I think that while Logan Woodside is kind of waddling around in obscurity and staying status quo, did Malik Willis do enough that I'm suddenly thinking I'm going from the Titans? I still think I'm now flip-flop. It was I think I was 80% or 90% they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. Now I think it's 90% they're only going to keep Malik Willis, because at this point, that 10% really. And I've always thought that they should just keep Malik Willis. I mean, I want to be clear on that. But my stance has always been I don't think the team thinks that. I don't know how you watch these last 2 games and see the progress and do this and that, and don't think that at least if Ryan Tannehill were to go down the middle of the game, who can execute the deep passes better? And I think that is what you want, because I think what you've seen in this offseason is already the Tim Kelly effect. The average depth of target for these wide receivers are all downfield. And I think that's why you see Logan Woodside struggling compared to previous preseason performances. This is always who Logan Woodside has been, but they're asking him to do more down the field vertically, and he's having a hard time with his arm talent to get the ball there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different narratives in one little thing.
No, I think and we'll get to sort of should they keep 2? I think the gap continues to shrink. I don't think it closed as much this week as it did maybe last week. But here's what I liked about Willis specifically on Saturday. The first route, the crossing route, the timing route there with play action, which is the route they pulled him off of basically, to Nick Westbrook-Akine across the middle. That is the prototypical Tennessee Titans 10-yard dig route off play action that they want him to execute in rhythm and in timing. He did that very well. And that was the first throw, and that was great. And then I saw 2.5, 3 possessions of sort of the Malik Willis that they're trying to work out, which is too quick to pull it down, didn't go through his reads and decision-making, didn't climb the pocket as much, a couple of delayed throws. They led to a couple of sacks, a couple of scrambles where he did make something happen, of course, especially the one down the right sideline where he kind of stalled, stutter starts, goes out to the sideline and picks up 15 more yards. I think what I liked about Willis was the progression within the game even, because then I think he comes out and at the last drive of the second quarter, first half, you start to see him settle in a little bit more. The second half, he did it even more for that one drive. Like you start to see him. There was throws where I go, that's the throw they're trying to make him make. And it wasn't always the right throw. It wasn't always a great throw. But you could tell that he was doing the thing the coaches were asking him to do. And I think that is a good first step for him. And again, the athleticism is there. We know that. I think he still held the ball too long. I still think he took too many sacks, looked to run too early. But you could see him working it out as the game went along. And I think that was important to see.
I think that the Buccaneers defensive line was just so much better than any of the offensive lines that we saw that day. And I think that you got to take a little bit of that into account. However, what I want to talk about the first down play right before the touchdown play that went to Hassan Haskins in the flat. I get it. That particular play, he got a first down. But the process to get to that first down, I thought was pretty terrible. I mean, Treylon Burks was streaking to get open right in front of Malik's face, and he just would not cut it loose. And I think that is still an issue, and it's obviously still an issue. Here's the thing about this. There's a lot of Malik narratives I want to talk about on this show. So the first off is that Malik should not be criticized for that particular play because in the end results didn't result. Well, let me tell you who is criticizing him. If the media can't and people on Twitter can't without being, called racist or being, just utterly attacked. And
how dare you offer objective analysis of a football player?
If we can't do that, let me tell you who is critiquing him. First off, Malik Willis is critiquing himself on that play. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that he went in, saw the film, and is just saying, man, I cannot believe I did not throw that ball to Treylon Burks. And the staff, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, and the passing game coordinator are probably all on his ass about that play. It does not matter about the first down. They prefer process. They want that process to equal better results because that's yards on the field. That could have been a Treylon Burks touchdown. Granted, he went and got a Chig touchdown, which was a beautiful play. Now, I'm anxious to see that play on the all-22 because I want to see who else was open on that particular play. He looks around.
He does hold the ball the whole time. Like, It is a long time to hold the ball, but again, it ends up right. It's funny that you mentioned that series because I have written down on first down, second down, and the touchdown. Drops back, has all day. Drops back, has all day. Drops back, has all day.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be the case most of the time. So I'm with you on the touchdown throw. People are raving about that play, and it was exactly right. He stays in the pocket. He climbs the pocket. He goes through his reads. Yeah. The question I want to know is,
what else was going on?
Yeah, and in a real game, does he even have time to get to like the fifth read?
Yeah.
Because normally you don't. But again, when he makes the decision to stay in the pocket and fire the football in there, it was – I mean, it's exactly what you want to say.
Really, what does that come down to? If he had the time in the pocket and – he wouldn't have had that time maybe in a normal game. That comes down to the long developing routes by the offensive coordinator.
Right.
So it will be interesting to see what's going down in that end zone during that play. It's one of the plays I'm looking forward to going back and watching because I look at it this way. Even if there's someone else throughout his read that is getting NFL open and he still holds on to the ball to get it to Chig, that's still bad process, great result.
Right.
And I also want to shout out to WKRN for having the world's worst broadcast last night. And that was one of the worst. Did you see when they kicked the field goal, they put it up to 30 points?
Oh, I will say this to your point, and it's all because go listen to our interview with Cal Baxter.
This is ABC.
Go listen to Cal Baxter's interview on Lamestream Sports. We had the former videography for ABC. Now, he would not run the live camera shots during a broadcast, but still, the number of times that they were fooled on play action or the zone read or where he was throwing the football, like the camera people were not on point.
And sometimes they wouldn't even show replays. It would be we got in a commercial break. We got 5 commercials about Waste Pro, but we can't get a replay. Like, give me a break. This preseason broadcast was bad last year. It's bad this year. I'm sick of it.
All right, let me. I want to ask you about I think it was the second down play on the drive prior to the touchdown drive. where he avoids a sack that we'll get to Dillon Radunz, that Dillon Radunz just completely whiffs on a block.
Ugh.
And it's one of those times, and he ends up completing it to the right flat, I believe, to Des Fitzpatrick for about a 10 or 12-yard gain.
I think it was 18 yards on that play.
And it was a lot. Some of it was about half a throw, and then about
that was
half,
a wild-looking throw. Like,
yes.
I don't even know how it got there. I don't even know how Dez, of all people, caught it. It was just crazy. It was a crazy play.
The only reason I bring that up is to point out that is an example of a good scramble. That is an example of where his athleticism and making the play that Woodside A cannot, and that Vrabel is okay with, is when you have just instantaneous pressure because Dillon Radunz sucked, and he just rolls out right and instantly finds the receiver and just makes a play. That is a time where that is okay. The first couple of drives, he was doing it where I thought it was because he didn't process things. So I do want to point out when I thought there was progress, and that was a play where I thought there was progress.
I think it's interesting that Mike Vrabel is preaching about leaving the back of the pocket. I have noticed that he was talking about that, and he talks about like that's not necessarily going to be viable all the time. And I'm thinking, well, I see other teams' quarterbacks do that. I feel like Patrick Mahomes does that, and Aaron Rodgers all do that, and Russell Wilson. So why? The reason I bring that up is because it goes back to when I did my quarterback draft rankings for the rookies. I put Malik Willis at 5, not because of talent, but because you really got to let Malik be Malik for a lot of what he does. And that's one of the things I feel like let's not scare him into second guessing into going into that. And I feel like that's what they did with Marcus on some things, with Fitz. I'm hoping that they're not going to try to take that away, because that play right there is why people thought Malik should have gone in the first round.
Yeah.
And let me say this too, real quick. And I'll talk about this on Dillon Radunz. There was a play where Dillon Radunz just kind of is on a scramble, and it maybe even ended up as a sack, where Dillon Radunz kind of gave up. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. So the other part of the reason I bring that up, and I think it might be the play you're talking about, where it was very similar. It was a drop back, and then he rolls out to the right, up and around the right tackle block.
Yeah,
but he didn't need to, and it created pressure because he
that was both. I thought that was both on them.
So he should have stayed there because the right tackle had the block, he had a body, he had positioning, and that's one of those where he created the pressure by actually rolling out of the pocket too soon. And so there's again, it's such nuance and such delicate. Like Vrabel probably has, and I tried to do it where I was like, all right, that's a sack, that's a scramble that was good, that's a scramble that's bad, that was a designated run. Like you're trying to sort of like chart it all. And I would love to see Vrabel's and Tim Kelly and Todd Downing chart on when he absolutely did the right thing, when he did absolutely the wrong thing, and then the middle ground shots. And I think we're getting a good sense of what those are. I still go back, and this is how we'll end the conversation about Willis, which is tied into.
Oh, I'm not done about Willis. I got other stuff I got to talk about Willis.
Okay, you go then, because my final question is going to be how close is he to Woodside, and I think we can get to that after you got a couple more narratives to get to.
There's a narrative that popped up last night, and this and Joe Rexrode caught it and kind of questioned it too. Now you know me, Braden. I live in the Titans Twitter sewers.
Yes.
I mean, I bathe in the disgusting mess that is the sewer water. I drink it. I eat it. It's my lifeblood. So I see all kinds of crazy things that are being said constantly, right? If there is a vast amount of people saying one thing, I typically bring it up. Mike Herndon put out a tweet last night talking about the narrative that Malik Willis should start over Ryan Tannehill.
That cannot be a thing that's happening.
It is not a thing that is happening. He mentions Michael Irvin said something. I don't know what he said. I didn't catch it. But Chris Canty, he mentioned Chris Canty. Well, he mentioned another NFL segment, and it was the Chris Canty bold predictions segment. That does not mean that he legit thinks that Malik Willis should start over Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
I didn't really want to get into it with Mike on Twitter last night, but there is literally nobody worth their salt. And I would say that's we're talking like maybe there's probably like, I don't know, 20 Titans fans that I bet have said this in his mentions, like 20 versus everybody else. this is not a real narrative, and this is not a narrative to bring up and act like that, it's something serious. I poo-poo on this narrative, and I poo-poo that this narrative even existed.
I am Twitter.
I
know you do.
I know you.
Yeah, you're an ambassador, if nothing else.
Yeah, I like it, ambassador.
So I would say on a given Titans game, there's about 300,000 people in Nashville that watch the game.
Yeah,
just in general, on average, if you get about a 28 rating, that's about 300,000 households in Nashville watching. I'm with you on like 25 people versus 300,000 who watched actually think he should be the starter. Now, I say all of this as someone who fills in almost once a week for Chris Canty on ESPN Radio. Like I'm doing a show on Friday. I did his show last week. They are intentionally trying to go above and beyond to do the bold prediction thing. It is designed, like I think somebody said Mac Jones was an MVP candidate. It's like you're trying to come up with stuff that's not real, but for the sake of fun conversation, let's dive into some crazy nonsense, right? Like Kyle Phillips could be, rookie of the year. Like that's a crazy bold prediction based on a little bit of logic and a little bit of reasoning and stuff that we like about Kyle Phillips, but knowing full well that it's that it's out in left field to some degree.
We can't be taking bold predictions and trying to turn it into and say that, oh, this is a real narrative that's out there on the streets. No. I poo-poo.
Good poo-poo everywhere, buddy. The bottom line is it's no longer the Twitter sewers. It's like the litter box. It's like the Twitter box. I think everyone with a human brain understands that Malik Willis is not even starting a game until week 1 next year.
Love Malik Willis and have loved Malik Willis and are Malik Willis stands, and even they hate it even when you criticize them. But they don't understand that that's all we have to talk about, right? I mean, it's preseason football. Ryan Tannehill's not playing a game right now. And we spent 7 months talking about Ryan Tannehill. I'm kind of sick of him.
Yeah, we'll get to the right tackle situation.
But essentially, that's even they know the reason why they're tired of the critiques is because they're like, well, we all know that he's going to have these critiques. Let's talk about something different. Okay. Because we know he's going to redshirt a year. So this idea that there is a big contingent of fans and vocal majority that thinks that Malik Willis should start over Ryan Tannehill is utter bullshit, Mike Herndon.
All right. What else you got?
That was my last one.
So I think so. We made the sort of Madden analogy last week on the show that they started at camp. Logan Woodside was on the 10-yard line. And Malik Willis is on the 0, and they're chasing each other down the field to get to the other goal line. I thought Willis had closed the gap a little bit, and then I thought Woodside maybe opened it up a couple of times during the practice with the Bucs. I think Willis has closed the gap again. I still think he's, 40% away, but I think he's closed the gap from being 90% away to being now 40% away. So I'm closing the gap even further. I think he is 2 good weeks of practice away from passing Logan Woodside, and he needs to show more in the final game. I still think Woodside is on the team, Zach, but I think the over-under has gone from week 6 that Woodside gets cut to like week 3 Logan Woodside gets cut.
We've just flipped in like a few days, because I am at this point, I'm like, I would actually kind of be scratching my head wondering why they kept 3 quarterbacks. That's where I'm at right now. Okay. I think Logan Woodside should just go to the practice squad. He hasn't put anything on tape that's really going to have anybody scrambling to come get this guy. And maybe like the Jaguars or the Colts pick him up for like a Falcons, game or something. Who do we play first? The Titans play the Giants. The Giants may pick him up just for a week or something.
Well, Arthur Smith knows him pretty well, so maybe the Falcons. So you've gone way past me then. Like
but why would they even need Logan for it? At that point? Logan gets to choose. I think Logan gets some kind of voice in the decision because of how he is in as a veteran or something. Where that if he clears waivers, then he gets to choose if he wants to go to the Falcons practice squad. And why would he choose to go to the Falcons practice squad? It's the same situation it is over here.
Yeah.
So,
Mariota could get hurt very easily. So
yeah, but I mean, then you look at it. I mean, isn't his family here, and isn't he dating like someone in the Strunk family or something like that?
Wow,
I thought he was.
That's good news right there.
I thought that was common news, and maybe I'm thinking of a different player, but I thought that was pretty commonly known. So I'm to the point where the 10% of me still thinks that the Titans think they need him. But from a standpoint, if you were to put Logan in a game now and put Malik in a game now, I think Malik gives you the better chance to win that game, especially if you're behind. And if you're ahead, I think Logan Woodside gives you a better chance at losing the game at this point, because he cannot, it does not look like he can do the throws necessary for the new Tim Kelly, Todd Downing offense. I just don't think he has the arm strength to pull that stuff off.
I think the number of scenarios in which Logan Woodside is a better decision to play than Malik Willis, 17 games, 10 games, 4 games, 2 games, a half a game, I think has dwindled down to like, if the Titans are up by 10 in the fourth quarter of a game and they need somebody to turn around and hand it off and be in the right play every single time, like that might be the only situation in which I'm still comfortable with Woodside being out there instead of Willis. That is dwindled down to like that scenario. And that's it for me. Like every other scenario.
And really, Malik has no issue doing the plays out of the huddle. So I don't see why he couldn't even do that point. At this point, I just think that having Malik go through the game planning and being involved in the offense week after week to prepare for all these different defenses, I just think it's just, I don't see any reason why, especially with all these defenders that you can't carry enough defenders right now because they're all good. We're going to get to it in a minute, but all these defenders are good. And I feel like at this point now, you can visibly see on the field, and all it takes is one game and a few good practices. But okay, well, maybe carrying the fifth safety is more important than carrying quarterback 3 Logan Woodside.
Or like all the good players on defense are good, and none of the offensive linemen. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I think I feel like I should take credit for convincing you that even after the first game, I was like, I think Willis is better. I think he's a better player. I think he deserves to be out there. I think even more of that now, and I'm glad that I've convinced you otherwise. So
I mean, really, Malik convinced me. His progress convinced me.
I know. But I'll take credit for it, his work ethic and his attitude, because that's what we do here on the show. All right, let's get to the rookies, offensive playmakers. A lot of things to discuss here. Ooh. I know you got some thoughts on people going to overreact to Treylon Burks again, and we'll get to that in a second. But I thought Kyle Phillips was excellent, not only in the punt return game, but in the actually in the game itself. He got some run, got a few targets. Willis missed him on an out route. I think that Vrabel said that you just got to complete the pass in the press conference on Sunday, and that means that throw was on Willis. Again, he took too long, and it was a far hash throw, and should have gotten it on to Phillips there. So he was excellent. I thought Hassan Haskins showed the vertical up and down, get north and south quick, put the foot in the ground, one cut and go type of player that we saw in practice this week. So I know you were excited to see him. Just Chigakonku catches a touchdown. Austin Hooper got some reps. Like all the new weapons were out there working, and I thought they had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think they had a great game, and I think that when you really look at it, let's start with Kyle Phillips. I was so impressed with Kyle Phillips. In fact, I almost put out a tweet, and I want your thoughts on the tweet. It's not not really.
This is a draft. You're getting my thoughts on your Twitter draft.
Well, what I was going to put out there, and I don't know if it was really going to be how it'd be taken, if I couldn't really get it worded right. But essentially, I think that Kyle Phillips can make the Pro Bowl in his first year as a special teamer. Okay? Because I think that he's going to get at least 3 touchdown punt returns.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think he's going to get an All-Pro vote, at least one All-Pro vote.
Oh my God, dude.
I think that he's going to be that good on special teams. And this is all for special teams. This is not for his work as a wide receiver. This is for his work as a returner.
No, I know what you're saying. So the amount of overreaction that's probably being done on the social Twitters in the Twitter box for Treylon Burks in a negative way is this is probably your version of that on the offensive side, or on the on the positive,
the special team side. Now let's be clear. This has nothing to do with offensive production.
I know. I meant positive side. I meant the positive side. I need you to vamp here because I'm going to look up the last time someone had 3 punt return touchdowns in one season in the NFL.
Probably Devin Hester or something.
Because it's been years, I believe.
Is it really that? I bet it was pretty early.
Last year. All right, the number of total punt return touchdowns last year in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
2.
Well, he's going to have all 3 this year. Listen, I just think that he's going to get in as a return specialist some way, somehow.
Okay,
And
there were 8 total punt return touchdowns in the entire NFL in 2020. Not one person had 2.
That doesn't matter. The trends are made to be broken, Braden.
All right, okay. You want me to keep going? Here we go. The last Nehemiah Hines had 2 punt return touchdowns 3 years ago.
Okay. See, that's not too far away.
All
Listen,
right.
and Kyle Phillips looks just really explosive. Now, I think that maybe some of his decisions were like, whoa, I can't believe he did it. But,
Yeah.
Again, bad process, but really great result. Going to Hassan Haskins, I think that you're talking about a guy that got 36 of his 39 yards after contact. I mean, it was pretty crazy. He forced 4 missed tackles last night. I mean, he just looked like a guy behind a horrible offensive line that if you put Lawan out there and then you put, Nate Davis out there and Ben Jones out there, you got a guy that can get you the yards to give Derrick Henry some rest. And I think he kind of put to bed any kind of like ridiculous notion that Julius Chestnut was going to make the team over him or even just make the team in general. Ryan Stonehouse was a mixed bag. Again, great arm talent. He was out there holding the field goals for Fat Randy.
Is that called hand talent?
Yeah,
like when you catch and you put it down, you spin it and you're good?
A little bit of hand talent.
Hand talent.
And I thought that until he's going to have to start reining in the kicks. At some point, that's what they're really looking for because Brett Kern still looked really good last night. So
Kern is still better at accuracy.
Yeah.
Stonehouse clearly has the leg though. It's pretty clear. I think they're going to try to keep Stonehouse on the practice squad for this year, and it could transition at some point during the middle of the year. Is sort of where I'm at.
What about Roger McCreary with a statement form tackle on the opening kickoff? I thought that I couldn't believe it. It's like just there's Roger McCreary making a play already. And then he starts on the outside. The Caleb Farley comes in. He gets kicked on the inside. He did
we'll get
enough.
To defensive backs. We'll get there.
Well, he's a rookie.
We're talking offensive rookies.
Oh, well.
It says right there on the screen.
NPF looked good. He looked great.
So I wanted to like Chig.
Reggie Roberson
looked good. Dez and Racy don't count technically, but they are kind of newer pieces. And I thought Dez had a couple of nice plays. Racy didn't deliver on the big play down the field that we wanted to see from him. But again, I think it's Chig, Phillips. You look at Treylon Burks did catch his first pass. He was open on a couple of others. And Vrabel said on Sunday, we're seeing progress from Treylon Burks. You can't fault him for lack of opportunity if the quarterbacks aren't going to throw it to him.
He thought he improved his consistency.
Yeah,
and to be honest, there was a lot of wide open plays, again, that we'll probably see in the All-22 that nobody pulled the trigger on. And I think that's the thing. The thing for me is that, first off, this offense is supposed to be very vanilla. They're not showing everything. And like you said, Vrabel talked about the presser. Treylon Burks can't control when someone doesn't see him wide open.
Yep.
And at this point, I don't think there's any reason to panic about Treylon Burks. I'd be a little bit more worried about him having to constantly ice his knee or whatever he's doing on the sidelines towards the end of games. But as long as he's out there playing, I'll say this. What he's doing on the field is stuff that Ryan Tannehill will take advantage of. And that's what matters. What you see in the film and what you see him do on the field, unlike Malik Willis being able to take advantage of it, Ryan Tannehill will not hesitate to make those throws. Treylon Burks is going to be good for this offense. He's going to be good for the regular season, and I don't think there's anything to really worry about when it comes to Treylon Burks.
Yep, and even the quick fade, which I think with Will down near the goal line there, when Willis threw to the left sideline when Burks had one-on-one coverage, I think it was the right read by Willis because it was the one-on-one coverage. They were going to go to Burks over the top. I just don't think it was a very good throw. He didn't really give Burks a chance to come down with it in bounds, and so I just don't think it was that great of a throw. And Burks was there, and maybe Tannehill brings him a little bit more in bounds with the throw down the field a little bit more, higher pointing it. Maybe that's the kind of stuff that you can't control if you're the wide receiver. So
yeah.
I think the key is don't overreact to Burks. Usage or not usage, I completely agree with you.
Just ignore the box score. If you ignore the box score and just watch 16 play, you see a star wide receiver in the making.
And I think you nailed it. There are a number of times where I go, Ryan Tannehill does that. Ryan Tannehill makes that throw. I think it's exactly the way to look at it, that Ryan Tannehill will take advantage of his skill set. But you're right. We'll keep an eye on the knee there or whatever was going on the sidelines. All right, let's get to some of the bad on the rookies. Before we do that, of course, reminder, Kingston Group, one of our title sponsors here on the show, buildkg.com. Zach, if you have any big major questions about your house or you want to do some renovations, for example, I don't know about your missus, but my missus has a long list of things she wants done at the house. She wants a pergola in the back. She wants a half wall built up to a full wall in the bonus room. She wants the doors in the office to be moved and be all stylish. She wants a new vanity in the master bathroom. I don't know why my voice is doing this, but she wants all this stuff.
It's very Seinfeld-esque.
She wants a new
deal.
What's the deal with
doors?
What's the deal with the oven hood? She wants a new oven hood. Like all these things, you take them to Kingston Group. They can design all of it for you. They can implement it all for you. They can give you a full price right up front, and they will hit their marks, and the quality will be outstanding. Check them out on the socials, by the way. The Kingston Group, buildkg.com. The work on the socials, go look at their stuff, man. It is gorgeous. Their stuff is amazing. You will not be disappointed, so check them out. Buildkg.com. That's the Kingston Group. All right, not so gorgeous. So Nicholas Petit-Frere starts at right tackle. I thought he did a pretty good job based on Pro Football Focus. Again, not the end-all be-all, but if you just base it off of that, basically NPF was twice as good as Dillon Radunz. Almost all of that was in pass protection. They were about the same in their run blocking. I thought MPF, I watched him almost the entire first quarter. I thought he did a pretty good job all around. I thought he had a couple of missed blocks, but by and large, I thought Nicholas Petit-Frere did a good job, and Dillon Radunz did not.
It was a Dillon Radunz disaster class. If you're watching on YouTube, you see it right there. It was horrendous. There is no salvaging him as a right tackle at this point. And let's say this is the same issues that he had against Tampa last year in the preseason game. He just gets beat up all the time. He's not, for a guy who supposedly is supposed to be a little bit more of your athletic right tackle, he sure as hell doesn't look like it. And at this point, I think you're looking at a small school guy who got overdrafted in the second round, who hasn't played a lot of football, who's struggling to catch on at tackle. You've said this a couple weeks ago. You said that the best 5 would be Dillon Radunz at left guard. At this point, I think if you're even hoping for him to be a left tackle, I don't think that he's left tackle material at this point. And you know, this whole thing, he made Nick Bosa move to the other side. Well, Nick Bosa played even worse against David Questenberry. So spare me that this was really an issue of that they were just scared of Dillon Radunz. I hate that's a narrative I hate. That's a real narrative out there. So I look at it as this last week and a half or however long is left in the offseason, let's put Dillon Radunz over at left guard and give all the reps to NPF, because that's a guy that's earned those reps. That's a guy that shows that he is ascending quickly, even if maybe they don't think his floor right now is as good as Dillon Radunz. His ceiling is higher, and he will elevate his own floor with more reps as the season goes on. To me, that's a no-brainer. It's kind of like this put Malik Willis as quarterback 2. That's your right tackle 1. Put him in there. Let Dillon Radunz try to beat out Aaron Brewer at left guard because he's bigger, and maybe you can salvage that pick. Because right now, you're talking about Isaiah Wilson and mentally stable Isaiah Wilson back years. Because at this point, I just don't see that Dillon Radunz could be anything more than A, swing tackle, or B, a starting left guard.
And I'll be very clear, if you get a starting left guard or in a couple of years a developed right tackle and NPF moves to the left, for example, I still think that's a valuable draft pick. It's not as high as it should have been viewed maybe, but I think once you're in the league, you kind of forget where you've been drafted and just try to find out, can I use you as much as possible? And maybe it just takes Radunz longer to go, but I'm with you. I think Nicholas Petit-Frere is your starting right tackle as of today. As of time of recording, after watching that game, he clearly was a better player, significantly so in pass protection, not even close. And if he's about the same in run blocking, you're going to take the pass pro guy all day. So I think he's absolutely clearly your right tackle.
You're going to take the guy that's mentally tough. I mean, at this point, and not to knock Dillon Radunz, I think that if you're looking at the guy that has the mental ability as well as the physical ability, you're taking NPF all day long. I think he obviously has the desire and the want to win this job. It feels like Dillon Radunz just can't gain any kind of confidence whatsoever to push this rookie away. So I think you just got to switch him to his natural side is to the left. I think he's going to do much better as a guard than a tackle in this league. Let him fight it out with Aaron Brewer for a week and a half and see if he can't just quickly overtake Aaron Brewer.
I think he's more athletic and bigger. Not more athletic in terms of quickness. Brewer is much quicker, but like just more raw, pure athletic ability. I think Radunz than Brewer. That would be a good battle. I do think that keeping Radunz, running him at right tackle, running him at left guard, run him all over the place. Because again, Jordan Roos was in there for most of the game at right tackle or right guard because Nate Davis we're still kind of in limbo with him. But I think Radunz is still an asset. I think he's still valuable for the time being as right now a backup that can play multiple positions. Maybe he can start at left guard if Brewer gets pushed around by larger defensive tackles. I think the good news for Titans fans is that MPF has come along much quicker than expected, that he's realizing the potential that we all saw when he was the number one offensive recruit.
I think that's a miracle / godsend after watching Dillon Radunz play. Like you may not, may view it as, I can't believe that we had to draft a 3rd round tackle to replace our 2nd round tackle just 1 year later. But thank God we did. That's how I would be viewing it as a fan. Thank God the Titans did that.
The only thing I want to see from MPF a little bit more is that like killer instinct to finish. Like he shows the work ethic, but one of the things that like when I was working in recruiting, one of the things we would look at with high school prospects is sort of that mean streak that when you want to finish with someone, like you want to drive someone into the ground, right? In particular on the run, in the run blocking situations. That's the one thing I think he needs to add is sort of that like mean streak to like finish dudes, because he's clearly got the size and the athletic ability and the talent and the mental makeup. He's got it all. He just has to sort of like put that last oomph on it. And I thought he played very well against Tampa Bay and against some like guys that are starters. Like he played against some guys that are going to get regular reps for the Tampa Bay defense, which is a very good defensive front. So Dillon Radunz, I don't know, man. We'll have to see. We'll have to see about that.
I'm out on Dillon Radunz as far as being a starting right tackle. And to be honest, he didn't really show me enough in that one start to make me think that they can hold on to him for a year and he can start on the left side next year. I think if you want to salvage this pick, you got to get him as a starting guard on the left side. And that's the only way that you're really going to get real value out of the 2nd round pick.
To me, the only other time I would mention is because clearly when Petit Frere moved over to left tackle when Lawan went out and then Radunz played right tackle, that could be the logical train of thinking for the Titans 2 years, let's say next year or 2 years from now, when Petit Frere moves over to left and Radunz comes in at the right tackle. That could be something they're thinking about long term if they think Lawan is not long for, Nashville. Who knows?
Well, right now don't think that, I was with you and that was the general thought of when they drafted MPF, but I think after watching the film, they're going to be like, okay, we're keeping Taylor Lewan. like there's just nothing about Radunz that gives me any kind of confidence.
You might be right. So let's go back to the positive side of things here and let's look at the defensive front, which was excellent all through practice. On Wednesday and Thursday's joint practices, they were great. They were great once again. Bud Dupree was good in the first couple of series. T.R. Tart made a couple of plays behind the line of scrimmage, getting after it with some TFLs. Rashad Weaver was my number one star on the defensive front. If you ask me who was the guy that stood out, Ola Adeni was also right at the top of the list. Like, these are depth pieces now that are starting
David Anini as well.
And David Adeni and Anini, both great. But Weaver was my number one guy. I thought he was excellent. And just Mike Vrabel talked a lot about his work ethic and how much he grinds and how much he works all last week.
And he's bringing in new moves. Like, that's one of the things that he talked about is like he's working on new moves. It took Harold Landry year 4 to start working on new moves, and Rashad's doing it in the 2nd year. So I think, a couple of people dinged Rashad Weaver in that first game for being a little slow. Again, knee injury. It takes a little bit to get comfortable in game time, which we saw with Caleb Farley. It's a great example. Taylor Lewan, it took, half the year last year. Game 2, Rashad Weaver looked like preseason star Rashad Weaver of last year that got everybody so hyped. There's no reason not to be excited. It's going to be so interesting to see how they find him snaps, right? Because you still have Harold Landry, you still have Bud Dupree, you still have Danico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons. Like, who's coming off the field? Is it a defensive back? Is it a linebacker coming off the field so Rashad Weaver can find the field? Like, that's the next big thing for Rashad Weaver is let's get pumped about Rashad Weaver. Now let's find ways to get him the ball. Or not get him the ball. Sorry, I'm thinking Treylon Burks, but find ways to get him on the field to go after the guy with the ball.
Yeah, and I think honestly, like in the modern NFL, in particular in the AFC, where you're going to play lots of games, where you're going to be on the field rushing the passer a lot, you just need to have rotational pieces. You need to have like Bud Dupree and Harold Landry cannot play every single snap, whether it's against the run on first down or in a passing situation on third down. Like you're going up against quarterbacks that are going to sling it all over the place, and so you're going to need 3 and 4 guys. Adeniji, and here's one thing that I saw in the 2-minute drill practice on Thursday. They had Adeniji playing middle linebacker, like a Tampa 2 dropped like 15 yards deep into the backfield, into the secondary, ahead of Zach Cunningham. So they already have all these creative ways to get Weaver and Adeniji on the field, even in traditional sittings and their situations where you still have Dupree and Landry out there too. So like they've got so many pieces to be creative. Weaver could be slotted in the Danico Autry role, like lined up with his hand in the dirt on a pass rush situation with Dupree and Landry. Like they can do a lot of different stuff with these guys because they're so versatile. And it's like the secondary. It's very arousing to watch all the versatility.
And again, a player that's probably earning their spot another week in a row. And another reason why maybe Logan Woodside shouldn't find a spot on the initial 53. David Adeniji, they even had him play in the slot and like Harold Landry on a play. I mean, I know last week I said, well, this is probably just going to be Reggie Roberson, but this is a better version of what Reggie Roberson was showing in preseason games. This is a guy that's really catching on. You know, I even think that he was actually graded as a draftable player by most analysts, and I don't see any reason why, if he's playing special teams, if he's being able to do everything you want him to do, he's making a good case these last few weeks that he may not even clear the waivers, because that's the kind of guy that someone's going to pick up off waivers to try and, you know, supplement maybe an injury or to supplement their practice squad or whatever they're going to do. At least make him a priority free agent or waiver wire priority or whatever it is. Because right now, I think that that's a valuable piece to hold on to for the foreseeable future.
I agree. He's big. He's physical. He's rangy. He's sort of built in the same mold as Adeniji and Landry, sort of in that mold where you're opposite of Bud Dupree. I think you cannot continue to flash in practice, then continue to flash in joint practice, and then continue to flash in every game you play and not be a thing that the coaches want. Now, I'd have him right now as the number 5 outside linebacker. Right. So the question is, do they want to keep him or not? And that's up to them. And we can kind of continue this because I thought, again, T.R. Tart had a good game. I thought, you know, we talked about Weaver. You know, Jones had the interception, showed some athletic ability on the return there. Deshaun Hand had a couple of nice plays. I thought
Chance Campbell had some good plays.
Chance Campbell got into the backfield a couple of times, knocked down some passes. Dr. Gibby played a lot. I'm still not sure where he is on the depth chart. But I do think if Adeniji and Adeniji, if they can play more versatile roles, especially in like passing situations, that will give them some confidence in their middle linebacker depth chart as well.
Yeah. To me right now, it's all about your injuries on the middle linebacker spot, whether or not how many you're going to keep and who you're going to keep. I think for sure they're keeping Chance Campbell. Chance Campbell's the lock to make this roster. They really like what he does at practices. And I think there was a marked improvement from game 1 to game 2 for Chance Campbell.
Agree.
So I'm with you. I think
special teams.
Really look at this defense. This defense is so deep. Like really good players are going to get cut. And I think a lot of teams are going to be looking to try to duplicate the Mike Vrabel magic. And I think they're going to fail because ultimately I think a lot of these players that find ways to make plays week in and week out, a big, large chunk of it has to be the credit of Mike Vrabel's coaching and Shane Bowen's coaching.
Yeah, I agree. Chance Campbell also very good on special teams as well. The first couple of games. Here's the one. So let's give credit, the positive side of this, which is very disruptive on defense against Tampa Bay. A bunch of sacks, a bunch of pressures. a bunch of different guys making plays in the backfield, a lot of play behind the line of scrimmage, interceptions, tipped passes, 4 forced fumbles, a lot of stuff. I want to make sure everyone realizes Tampa Bay's offensive line is in complete shambles. There was no Tom Brady. The top 4 wide receivers for Tampa didn't play. I just want to be like, it's good to see. It's a positive step, but I just want to say, like, that was not exactly elite competition there.
But you want to see a team, and I think I talked about this on Thursday's show. When you are an elite team or an elite side of the ball, you want to dominate your lesser opponent, and they dominated them. Yep. And I think that's what you want, regardless of the talent level, because we have seen this team too many times play down to lesser competition.
That's true.
To see them to go down out and dominate lesser competition is a good sign for this defense, regardless of what's the actual and proper context that you're providing.
Nope, you're absolutely right. We'll talk about the secondary, some defensive backs, a look ahead at the Arizona joint practices this week, and maybe a quick note from around the NFL. But let's remind you, of course, that the football show is brought to you by Weiss Liquors, our great friends over there on Gallatin, right there in East Nashville, right next to the Titan Stadium, just like a couple of blocks away from the Titan Stadium. Go to Uber Eats, search Weiss Liquors, have booze delivered right to your door, because let Weiss Liquors do the driving. Is that right?
They drive so you can drink.
There we go. I'm just going to let you do that from now on. You're way better at it than I am. And if you pop in the store, of course, to stock up on your latest tailgate party, just say $4.40 at the cashier register there when you check out, and all our great friends over at Weiss Liquors will give you 10% off. So Weiss Liquors, family owned and operated, independently owned, locally owned here in Nashville for almost 100 years, serving the community. So buy local, folks. If you're going to buy booze, buy local. All the prices are the same. So get it where they're going to give you 10% off, give it where they're going to deliver it to your door, and get it where it's close to the Titan Stadium. I don't know what else to say about Weiss Liquors. So go to Weiss Liquors, everybody. So there you go.
Get your ass there.
Get your ass to the liquor store and drink, please. All right. Secondary. Defensive backs. Caleb Farley, 0 for 4 in terms of four pass attempts. Now he did let
forced incompletion.
He did let Scotty Miller get behind him on one, and one of them he was a little late on, but he made the play. I thought otherwise it was a pretty good day for Caleb Farley. Roger McCreary didn't really play much at all. I thought Kalu had a great game. Lonnie Johnson was all over the field.
My God.
It's a lot of new players.
Everybody was so worried about the safety position. The couple of injuries. Amani Hooker wasn't practicing. Theo Jackson's not practicing. What are they going to do at safety? And the 3 guys they brought in to play the safety position all made plays. Tyree Gillespie, you're talking about Josh Kalu, and you're talking about Lonnie Johnson, which I thought when they brought in Lonnie Johnson, I noticed when I was checking his snaps on PFF, I thought that he was going to get some snaps at safety. And I thought that was what they were bringing him into play, not necessarily corner, but to play the safety position. And it turns out it's where he played most of his snaps for the game. And he did a tremendous job for a guy that just joined the team halfway through. He's familiar with Anthony Midget. That's why they went out and got him. His rookie year was Anthony Midget's last year as a defensive backs coach. He didn't really cross paths with Mike Vrabel, so that doesn't really matter. But what I see is basically AJ Moore being shown the door. I know that AJ Moore was a first wave free agent signing. They paid him like $2.5 million, and they're on the hook for that or whatever. But ultimately, does it really fucking matter? Does that 2.5 even matter? No, they don't care about the contract, so neither should you. They care about the best 53, and AJ Moore right now is not part of the best 53 of this team. And I think that if you also look at it from the perspective of, because I've seen a few people buck up at this, well, then they should have signed Dane Cruikshank at $1 million. Well, don't you think that if Dane Cruikshank would have took $1 million at the beginning of opening a free agency, he would have taken it and stayed? Instead, he went and bet on himself and had to settle for $1 million. And guess who's not playing for the Bears right now? Dane Cruikshank, because he's been injured. What a shocking development that an often injured player is injured. So I'm not even worried about missing Dane Cruikshank. I wasn't worried to begin with because AJ Moore was not a one-to-one replacement for Dane Cruikshank. He wasn't coming in to be the tight end or racer or whatever you want to call it that. They were always going to do that position by committee or whoever stepped up from the multiple positions that they have. So I'm looking at this secondary. Roger McCreary was not only playing in the slot, and out wide, but he played a lot of box snaps in the box as well. So they used him everywhere, which is exactly how they would have used Molden if he was playing. We talk about this all the time. This is as deep a secondary as I can ever remember the Titans having. And it can be one of the best secondaries in the NFL, even though they're super, super young and inexperienced. They have all the talent in the world right now.
And both Jacksons are hurt right now.
Yeah.
Like that would have been safety 3 or 4 and cornerback 6, and both those guys are out. And in the meantime, you're getting Greg Maben a bunch of reps, and all these other Shakir Brown, I think, got a bunch more reps as well this past weekend. So I think they still need to work some stuff out. But if you tell me that Hooker, Byard, Molden, Farley, McCreary, and Fulton, those 6 defensive backs, are going to play the vast majority of snaps in the defensive secondary in some form or fashion, I think the Titans fans should be ecstatic about that.
And we saw it because you know why McCreary saw 18 coverage snaps, if I recall correctly. You know what happened in those 18 coverage snaps? He wasn't targeted once. Because you know why? Because someone's doing their damn job out in the field.
Do your job.
And listen, they tried to pick on Caleb Farley, and he made them pay for it with his athletic ability and his just general being able to be rangy, his length. I'm just impressed. I'm impressed with Caleb Farley. I thought that he answered that, the trade day where everybody on Wednesday wanted to trade him away and call him a bust, and he answered back fairly quickly and efficiently. And I think that you're going to see his confidence grow.
Yep.
With the ankle, and you're just going to be like, okay, well, McCreary starting this week, Farley starting next week, McCreary starting this week, Farley starting next week. Like, it's going to be crazy.
And I think McCreary saw less time for a number of reasons, and Vrabel kind of tap danced around this on Sunday, but I think McCreary is coming back from an injury, right? He's not as fully healthy as Farley is. Farley had built some momentum in Thursday's practice, and he wanted to continue to give him some confidence and momentum in some real game snaps. And so I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to one guy being in different situations of the other. I think they're just sort of like every guy's got their own plan with Vrabel and his staff on how they're going to get them into action and lathered up. And it's all, again, if it is Molden, Fulton, McCreary, Farley, Hooker, and Byard, those 6 defensive backs for the vast majority of the 2022 season, the secondary will be one of the best in the AFC. Full stop.
Full stop.
All right. Arizona, what are you looking for? Because Vrabel said some stuff about this after the practice. Like, he thought it was great practice against the Bucs, but he kind of said they might tweak how they're going to practice with Arizona, kind of keep the teams separate a little bit more. Obviously, the brawl at the end there against Tampa. What are you looking forward to this week in practice?
I need to see some Nate Davis. Like, I'm a little worried about Nate Davis not getting valuable reps in during practice. I don't really technically care about the game, but Nate Davis has got to be in there and off whatever he's doing. He's got to be in there gelling with this team, gelling with NPF. I want NPF and Nate Davis, Ben Jones, Aaron Brewer or Dillon Radunz, and Taylor Lewan. I want the starting offensive line getting a ton of work this week, all together gelling, because I fear that Nate Davis is going to have a slow start if he doesn't start getting some valuable reps in. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. I think that with DeAndre Hopkins coming into town, and they've been talking about offensive pass interference and being physical and all this stuff, I'd like to see the cornerbacks get physical. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm mainly looking at the offensive line and the cornerbacks, and that seems like what we've been talking about the whole time. The wide receivers versus Arizona's defense, I'm not too concerned about, really. It's just like I guess I'm not concerned with Ryan Tannehill and the wide receivers. And really, we're heading into the regular season. How much more can I really care about Malik Willis or Logan Woodside and their quarterback battle? Like, this is not the time to really worry about that anymore. It's time to start getting the starting offense and the starting defense getting going, gelling, and everything in preparation, because in 2 weeks is a regular season, baby.
Yeah, to me, it's the offensive line and the pass catchers on offense continuing to get work together. I want to see they spread the ball around a lot in practice against Tampa on offense. Ryan Tannehill did specifically. I want to see that again this week. I want to see Chig get involved, throw it to Hooper, throw it to Phillips. I want to see Bobby Trees getting involved as well. I want to see a lot of different pieces catching passes from Ryan Tannehill specifically. And I want, because the offensive line was not particularly great in practice. That was the one area I'd circle and say, watch it. It's also the one area we've been circling for the better part of 6 months now. And we'll continue to circle. I'm with you on Nate Davis as well. So to me, it's all about the offensive line. And then what happens off of that?
You like to see Danico Autry back at practice too, like.
I'd like to see that Danico Autry is still alive. Like
yeah.
No one's seen his face. I don't think
it's not necessarily that they, with the emergence of Raj Weaver, they need Danico Autry, but your team is better with Danico Autry and Rashad Weaver both available. So let's get some of these guys that been on the bikes or been missing out there as just a sign that they're alive and not held somewhere.
Hostage. Danico Autry is actually being hostage on Jim Irsay's airplane currently. No one knows.
I'm in, but you're totally right. My main focus is Malik Willis, Logan Woods. I really don't care anymore. I am now gearing up for the regular season. It's to ramp up. I'm looking at, Ryan Tannehill, what's he doing in practice? Is he going to continue doing what he's doing? I don't care that Derrick Henry's not practicing because, he doesn't need it.
I've talked to him kind of not on media availability, but just like chatted with him like after practice, just kind of standing around. And I've been around him since he was a sophomore at Alabama, and he is even more physically impressive today than he was at any point during his career. So I'm not worried about him. It's the offensive line and the pass catchers and how that all works together that I want to see look real good this week in practice. We'll have a full review for you guys, of course, on Thursday's episode as well. We'll be back live 1 p.m. on Thursday, so make sure you check that out. Anything from around the league you care about at all, or are you good on week 2 NFL preseason
I'm good
game?
on week 2. I didn't really pay attention. I think the Bills are a little overhyped, and the hype train continues to grow, but we can get a little bit more into that later because I know we're pressed for time.
Yep, we'll get out of here. Raiders offensive line, huge concern so far. It doesn't matter how many great weapons you've got, Derek Carr. If you don't have time to throw, you're going to be in trouble. So the Raiders offensive line, that's the one to keep an eye on. That could be a team that falls out of the playoff race if in the AFC, if the Raiders offensive line. So all this stuff we'll do coming up as we preview the entire season here and make some predictions on who's making the playoffs in the AFC soon. Kingston Group, Weiss Liquors, Broadway Sports Media, F Words Pod, 440 Sports, at Braden Gall on Twitter. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and dealing with us this week. We really appreciate it. We'll be back on Thursday. That has been a football show. This has been a football show. You're Zach. I'm Braden. This has been a football show. Good God.